Ons.
Oh, gosh.
See if these mics are turned up. They are.
Not bien.
And cut. Hello. Let me get this situated just right. All right, we're here once again with the ATP podcast Around the Post with your boy Jay, Fig GPT, the man, the myth, the legend. I believe this is episode 187. We didn't drop a full episode last week. We did release new content on YouTube, but we didn't release anything traditionally for the podcast. How are you feeling, man? French Open season.
Yes, French Open, they're semifinals, so everything's going good.
Beautiful. Obviously, there's plenty to talk about. Where do we start today?
Yes, I'm going to try not to talk about the first week since in the past we did cover the French Open crowd. So if you guys want to check out that snippet, you guys can. Mm-hmm. That was the big topic of week one for sure.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with a little bit of love here. So Kalinskaya was caught in Jannik Sinner's box. And then afterwards, he was asked, "Are you guys dating?" And then he said, "I hate talking about my personal life, but yes, we are dating." So we have a new power couple here. What are your thoughts on Jannik Sinner and Kalinskaya?
Have we divulged or discussed on this podcast who her ex-boyfriend is?
Kalinskaya?
Yeah.
I believe it was Nick Kyrgios, right?
Yes, it was. It was Nick Kyrgios who did post a tweet about it as well.
Yes.
I think I might even have it saved. But yeah, very interesting. The tennis world is clearly small. What are your thoughts on Jannik Sinner having the same taste as Nick Kyrgios?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I think it's a nice looking couple. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you guys are into the Sissy Dosa, they're back together as well. Mm-hmm. And they were rumored to play mixed doubles, but then with the deep run that Tsitsipas had in doubles and in singles, they ended up pulling out. So, yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Romance on the Pro Tour is flourishing.
Yes, exactly.
Summertime fun time.
Yes, and if you don't know who Kalinskaya is, she had a promising junior career, and her big notch to me anyway, as a pro, is she got a wild card into Dubai and beat Iga as a wild card. And then she ended up losing to Paolini, the eventual champion. Mm-hmm. So that was the big thing to me. Mm. And Paolini had a big victory today. We'll talk about that in a bit. So now we're going to talk about some Raducanu news. So Ons Jabeur said to Raducanu, "If you're still looking for a coach, I am interested." What are your thoughts on Ons Jabeur wanting to coach Emma Raducanu?
I'm a little perplexed because it seems like either there's something I'm not reading between the lines here, or an active player is saying they're not going to be active. Don't fully understand that one.
Do you think that she's the right coach for her? She's gone through coaches left and right ever since winning the U.S. Open.
Ons Jabeur was in this French Open.
Yes, she just lost.
Yeah. I don't understand how she's going to be the coach of Emma Raducanu while having a downward spiraling WTA career. I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to be thinking of everything but your own personal journey. I'm a little confused by that. I think I'm going to do a little research and dig into that one. But yeah, I don't like it.
Play style wise, she could help her. She does a lot of drop shots. Jabeur, she does move the ball around really well. She changes directions really well. I think that in my opinion, I think it wouldn't be a bad choice if she were to go that route.
Tactically speaking, sure, yes. But I feel like Ons Jabeur shouldn't be talking about coaching another active player on the tour for another 8 years.
So you're thinking that this may be a goodbye for Jabeur?
That's what it sounds like, in theory. So
yes.
I'm a little confused by that.
Yeah, so again, I'm not going to talk about a week one too much, but this to me was a very interesting stat. There was 6 English players, and they all lost before the second round. And Katie Boulter was the higher seed against Badosa. Also dating Alex de Minaur, and she lost as well. And she had a lead on Badosa. What are your thoughts on Great Britain not doing so well on clay?
I mean, I don't think they have a reputation for being good on the dirt. So, to me, this is normal. This is fine. Let's talk more about Great Britain struggling on grass or a hard court. Then we can talk about a nation declining. But for now, them not doing well on the clay is fine. I don't think it means much.
Okay, that's fair. Now let's talk about Sabalenka. Another interesting stat here. Comparable to Sinner, Sabalenka was hitting the ball on her forehand 3 miles an hour faster than Sinner was in their first round matches. She was averaging 3 miles more on the forehand than Jannik Sinner. What are your thoughts on that?
She is clubbing that ball because Jannik Sinner, that's not a pushover. That guy hits the ball. Obviously, she's hitting flatter than Jannik Sinner, and that's relevant, because that means that ball moves differently. But nonetheless, extremely impressive. Is she hitting the biggest ball on the women's tour?
For a while, it was Madison Keys. But right now, it appears that, it could be Sabalenka.
And she's definitely doing it at the highest level of the big forehands, right?
Yes.
For sure. So, really impressive.
Yes, that is true. So now we're going to get to Rybakina. This is all week 1, trying to cover it fast. So she was asked questions, and she just wasn't having it. She was all, who picked your outfit? They did. Next question. Do you think your rivalry with Sabalenka is helping you out? I answered this question already. Next question. So she was basically saying, you guys are asking me the same questions. It's getting tiring. I don't want to come here. As a matter of fact, when she said that, the very next round, the press just didn't ask for her. What are your thoughts on Rybakina's actions?
I don't like it. I think it's a little bit ungrateful. I think that maybe she's going through something off court. Or maybe she's just struggling with something in the tennis world. I mean, obviously her results are rock solid, so it's not that. But, media is who fills... Ultimately, media is who fills the seats in stadiums. Media is who gets people to watch you on TV. Media is who gets you endorsements. Media. So you being resistant to media, it seems like you don't get the big picture. I understand they're annoying. I understand they ask stupid questions. We can all agree on that, right? But you can't shut down media completely. You're just hurting yourself ultimately. You're at some point going to be less popular because of it. Less people will sit down to watch you play. You're ultimately hurting the sport itself. I think that hopefully she's just going through something temporarily, and she'll get back to being more receptive to media and press conferences and stuff.
Now, they do ask her a lot about how the big three push each other.
Yeah.
Do you think that they need to come up, the media needs to come up with more questions?
I'll be pretty honest with you. I think tennis media is very talentless. It's very rare you hear great questions from tennis press conferences. I'll admit I agree with that completely. And I also think that the best tennis content is never coming from press conferences. We're looking for those players to release their own content. We're looking for podcasts like ours or the Andy Roddick one or, some of the other ones out there. Press conferences and journalists for tennis just seem to be a little bit subpar. So I understand the frustrations they're going through, but, at the end of the day, we still have to be grateful because they are the people creating the narratives and pushing the articles and the headlines. So
I can understand asking her the same question because they ask her the same question a lot. So I can understand that, but again, if without the media, people are not going to know who you are. So you have to be semi-grateful for what they're doing. So and I understand the frustration too. But now we're going to get to the week 2 stuff. Remember, if you want to watch the Iga Osaka stuff, the Iga complaining about the crowd, we have the snippets out already, so you guys can check those out.
Yep.
But now we're going to talk about week 2. We had a thumping 4th round match. People trolling Potupova, who was a successful junior, by the way. Mm-hmm. She was the it girl in the juniors. She beat Iga in the juniors.
Yeah.
Thumped 0-0. People, this was a 4th round match? I thought this would be a 1st round match.
Jeez.
40 minutes. And Iga is the 3rd or 4th player to do a back-to-back 0-0 since Sabatini. So she did it last year as well. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this thumping here?
Iga is one of the few players on the men or women's tour that is able to just double bagel a pro athlete. You know, she's mind-blowing at the way her style must be such a dramatic contrast to some of these other women on the tour's play style that they're just shocked when they face her, because not even holding your serve once is pretty crazy. Salute to Iga, because I know that she's the number 1 player in the world, but bageling a fellow pro tennis player twice in a match is extremely hard. That's very difficult. That means you were dialed in and focused for 12 straight games. And
this player is ranked inside the top 100.
Yeah.
It's not as if she's a 0-0, a 200 player who made it to the 4th round.
Yeah. That means that player was dialed in some aspect, you know?
Right.
So, mind-blowing stat, mind-blowing numbers. And Iga, this, like you just said, this isn't the first time she's done it. This is a feat she's done multiple times. And don't get me started on how often she's beat people 6-1.
Yes.
That's a very long list. So, yeah, good for her.
So, again, she did it 0-0. She did it last year as well. She's done it in consecutive years. Sabatini did it 92-93. And Mary Pierce did it 93-94. And now Iga. So, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Now the media did ask her. I guess the media did ask a smart question. They asked her, "Did you think about what she used to do to you in the juniors?" Her response.
That's funny.
Her response was, "I just didn't think that I was that ahead." And what happened to her? That was her response. What are your thoughts on the response and the question?
I love that she essentially said, look, I was in the zone. That's basically what I get from that response. And the oblivious response is slightly hilarious, you know, because she was out there with maximum intensity and intention and double bageled a fellow pro and then walked off and just basically said, what just happened right now? You know, I love it. And I think that that's kind of what it takes to do that to players, is to enter a zone and to just see the ball and to play your best tennis. And we saw that from Nadal a lot.
Yes.
He was very good at that. So it's nice to see that in another pro.
So she struggled with Osaka. She cried. Again, you guys go watch that snippet. But now we have first-timers in the other side of the bracket. She's 10-1 against Coco Gauff. Is she the heavy favorite to win the French Open?
Yeah. Heavy favorite. Iga, I'm sure the betting odds are insane if you're trying to bet on who wins the French. So good for her in that aspect, but you know, she's going up against someone whose number she has. And let's not talk about their head-to-head on clay, if they even have one that's developed. But
yes.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Coco Gauff. This is Coco Gauff's Mount Everest, facing Iga on clay. So if she's able to figure this out and find a solution and win on this surface against Iga, Coco Gauff's whole year changes. So that's just me kind of playing the advocate, you know, talking about what could happen. But I will say this, it's extremely unlikely. And hopefully Gauff is able to find positives in the results, whether she wins or loses, because this is an incredible French Open result for her so far.
Yes.
So she's having a great tournament.
Well, there is something that's going to change her life for sure, and it's going to happen on Monday. So we'll just get to her right now before I reveal that stat. Excuse me. She's the first American woman in the Open era to reach 4 straight Roland Garros quarterfinals before the age of 21.
Wow.
Thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we've talked about this over the last few years on this podcast, but Coco Gauff, unlike all the other young women on the WTA Tour in the last 5 to 10 years, she's the only one to me that showed up, received a ton of hype, and her trajectory and her level has just slowly got better, slowly got better, slowly got better, and slowly got better. And there never has really been a true dip.
Right.
And, she's rock steady. And this is why I have such confidence in her, because when you spike up super hard, you go to a slam final or you win a slam, a lot of times they spike back downward again, but because of the journey she's been on, it would be very difficult for her to fall back and have a sharp decline. It's just unlikely. She's too consistent. She's too steady. She's been working at it with consistency too long. I think she's doing it the best way possible. She's got another 15 years on the tour, so I think that she's doing everything great. These statistics are going to just keep sneaking up on us, and we're going to go, holy smokes. We're talking about stats that are very relevant to the big three on the men's side, which is how many quarterfinals, how many semifinals. I think she's going to be one of those.
Yes, she's consistently beating the people that she has to beat and quote unquote losing to the people that are ahead of her. So by doing that, she's going to remain in her spot for a very long time.
Right.
And she's made 3 straight semifinals as well. Obviously, she won the U.S. Open. I believe it was championship of Australia. And now semifinals of Roland Garros.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive. Now the big stat, with Sabalenka losing today, on Monday she will become the new world number 2. So Sabalenka made it to the semifinals last year.
Yeah.
So she's going to drop points for not making it. Coco Gauff made the quarterfinals last year's, and now she's in the semis, so she's gaining points. And that is the difference in the ranking, and now she is the new world number 2.
Holy
What are your
smokes.
thoughts on Coco Gauff's high ranking now?
New big 3. New big 4. Honestly, this is why consistency is king. She's really taking on that helm of collecting points and really being greedy about sharing them. She's not really giving up the points she gets. She's doing a great job of getting quarterfinals at a slam, semis at a slam, winning a slam, and kind of sitting on those points and not really shaving off very many throughout the year. And my question for you is, do you think that her new ranking is representative of the level she's playing? Is she the second best player in the world?
Oh, man. With her consistency, I believe so.
Yeah?
I believe so. Sabalenka is struggling a lot. I mean, she won a couple of clay court tournaments, but clay has just not been her surface, although she's made the semifinals at Roland Garros last year. So you would think that she would do better. But she did suffer with she was complaining about stomach pain. But Coco Gauff is just consistent. She's always there. So regardless of whether or not she's struggling with her serve or her forehand, she's just there.
Yeah.
She's just the dog right there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I somewhat agree. I think that overall, in a year, she has had the second best overall year.
Right.
But I do question how her and Rybakina will play against each other head to head, how her and Sabalenka will continue to have their matchups go. And I think for me, the next thing I'm waiting to see from her is finding a way to be more dominant above these other players.
Right.
So that's what I'm curious about. I need to see something different when she faces Iga, when she faces Sabalenka, when she faces Rybakina.
Yes.
So that's next on the to-do list for her.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens there. And now the big news, as I just stated, Sabalenka lost. She was complaining about stomach pain for the last couple of days. Andreeva, we've been hearing about her for the longest time. She is now entered. She is 17 years old, and she is the youngest Grand Slam semifinalist in 20 years. Martina Hingis was 16 when she made the semifinals. So now we have Andreeva. We've been hearing a lot about her.
Yeah, we have.
We're hoping she'd break the glass ceiling, and she has a little bit.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Andreeva?
I love that we're starting to get a peek at what we've discussed in the past, which is that, we even talked about her being the quote-unquote rookie of the year.
Yes.
Last year we discussed that, and she was kind of I want to say she was our pick. But yeah, this is a good start. I'm very curious. This is just me speaking, off the top of my head. When players have their breakthrough at the French, it just means more than any other slam to me. Her breaking through that glass ceiling here, to me, means that she has the opportunity to play at a high level at all the other slams as well.
Okay.
Just my thoughts.
Okay. And now we have another semifinalist, first-timer as well, Jasmine Paolini. She won Dubai, beating Kalinskaya, so that was the big notch under her belt, and now she's a semifinalist. Again, we have two players that are in the semifinals for the first time. Who do you think is winning that, and what are your thoughts on Paolini making it to the semifinals?
To be honest with you, I'm blown away at this semifinal result, but I'm excited. I didn't watch Paolini's match, but obviously I have kept up with her results, and so I'm not super surprised. I'm really not. I'm curious to see how things play out for her. Let me look at the matchups here.
While you're looking that up, this is the first time that there's a featured Italian, male and female, in the singles semis. Obviously, you got Jannik Sinner and Paolini.
Yeah, it's impressive.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Andreeva and Paolini took out the 2 and 3, or technically the 2 and 4 seeds, because Coco Gauff's the 3rd seed. They took out 2 of the big 3. That's how I'll phrase it. So they didn't just get walkovers into this semifinal. They beat the people who we all thought that the semifinals were going to be the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed this year. That's how it was looking at the French Open. So they've completely flipped it upside down, and now it's really turned into. Do you believe it's Iga or Gauff for the French Open winner?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, I'm thinking the same thing. Does Gauff make magic? Does she find a way? Is it possible? That's my question for you.
Well, she did it in Cincinnati. There is a chance, I guess, but I don't know on clay.
Yeah, it's a different surface.
I don't see it on clay. We'll see.
Okay, that was my only major question for you.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to the men. This could be a topic any time of the year, but I'm gonna bring it up today. So obviously we know Dominic Thiem didn't make Roland Garros. This is his last one. But people were comparing who had the better career, Dominic Thiem or Juan Martín del Potro. Both wrist injuries, the big what ifs. They pretty much have the same amount of stats here. So, again, they both had 1 Grand Slam title.
Okay.
They both won Indian Wells once. Both of them, their highest ranking was 3. Dominic Thiem has 17 career titles. Del Potro had 22. So, very similar stats. What are your thoughts? Who do you think had the better career? Dominic Thiem or Del Potro?
Look, so this is very close because they both have specific details in their journeys the other one doesn't have that are very meaningful. So we'll start with Dominic Thiem. Dominic Thiem is the guy who was actually a threat to your favorite player in the Big 3. If you were a Djokovic fan, a Federer fan, or a Nadal fan, and you saw Thiem in your draw, you were nervous for your player. No matter the surface. Clay, hard, not grass. But on these players' best surfaces a lot of times. He had a winning record over Federer. And Dominic Thiem is the only guy to me who we all knew he was the next guy. We all just knew it. There's no doubt in anyone's mind. He was electrifying. He was flashy, fun to watch. And that's what made him special. On the flip side, he won his slam during the COVID year. He has an asterisk slam, right? Who was really in that slam? Who did he go against? Let's talk about...
A nervous Zverev.
Yeah, a nervous Zverev. Let's talk about Del Potro. Who did he beat to get his slam?
Nadal in the semis, Roger in the final.
The toughest people he could have ran into, right? So he has a true open era slam over the greatest on earth. And it just means more. It does. I know they both have one slam, but they're not created equal. So Del Potro, in my opinion, did not have the best backhand in the world, but he may have had the best forehand on the planet at some point in time. And he was a complete player. To me, he was one of the pioneers of the big man in tennis now. This hybrid of the 6'4" to 6'6" guys being good movers, complete baseline games, playing with point construction, not relying on just a serve bot type of style. He was one of the pioneers of that for me. So I hate to say it, but I like Dominic Thiem more. I'm a bigger fan of Dominic Thiem. I think that the Del Potro career is more significant.
I'm going to have to go with Del Potro.
Yeah.
We're also going to count the medals in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. Dominic Thiem, not so hot. Mm-hmm. So there you go as well. We have to count that. To me, he was a little more consistent as well.
He was.
And to me, he had a little bit more of a weaponry. He had a bigger serve, obviously. 1-2 with the serve forehand. His backhand may not have been as explosive as Dominic Thiem's, but he was able to go around it, create that big forehand. So I think the weaponry, it has to go with Del Potro.
Yeah. I think that he did a little more with his tools more efficiently than Dominic Thiem did. And also, part of my issue with Dominic Thiem is his initial decline wasn't an injury-based issue. It was a mental health issue. And no offense, but that takes away from the comparison for me.
Okay.
To me, it shows less resiliency than Del Potro. It's just a fact. Del Potro won his first slam and didn't feel a dark black cloud above his head after.
Yes.
And Dominic Thiem did.
Yes.
He was very puzzled because he burned himself out a bit.
Yeah, he said, "What do I do now?"
Yeah, he burned himself out, and that's unfortunate, because I love Dominic Thiem, but Del Potro won his first one, and I think he was ready to go for number 2.
Yes, he was ready.
That was a great question. I'm going Del Potro.
Yes, I agree. We're going to go to Alex de Minaur. He's the first Australian to make the Roland Garros quarterfinals since Hewitt in 2004. He's been slowly having a nice resurgence on clay.
Very quietly consistent.
He hasn't been so hot before, but right now he's playing good on clay. I mean on clay.
Do you remember his Q1? He had a very good start to this year. I don't know if you can remember, but his Q2 has been sluggish for sure. But his first quarter of this season, he was actually playing great tennis. I think he beat Djokovic. What
are your thoughts on the rise of de Minaur on clay?
Alex de Minaur has... To me, he's playing top 10 level tennis for the year. And I think we should keep an eye on him because he's becoming a dark horse to me. He's dangerous. He's scrappy. And I think that he makes some people's games break down when they realize their weapons are not weaponing.
Weapons are weaponing, okay.
The shots people take control of matches with come back when they play de Minaur. And some guys melt down when that happens. They go, do I need to hit harder? Do I need to hit more accurately? Like, what do I do when they start to make more mistakes? And he beats people with that. So, shout out to him because that level of play is very hard to accomplish.
Yes, exactly. And pretty big news, Labour Cup-wise. I thought that McEnroe was just retiring, but no, Bjorn Borg is stepping down as well. This is going to be his last year. His replacement, French Open champion, Yannick Noah. What are your thoughts on that?
Not a big... I don't know a lot about Yannick Noah, but I did my research. I am aware.
He won the French Open in 83, I believe.
Yeah, like, to be frank with you, it seems like they couldn't find anyone who wanted to do it right now. Just to be frank with you. I do think he'll do a good job. He does seem to have a good personality. I think that it'll work. But I do think we're going to be relying a bit on celebrity cameos, Roger Federer appearances, and stuff like that to keep the Team Europe energy up. We'll see what happens.
When he was a player, he was full of energy.
Yeah.
For sure.
He still is in his older age.
Right. So I don't blame him for viewership, the noise, the passion. So I can see it. So obviously we're going to go quickly about Nadal. Obviously he lost in the first round, but he also made an interesting statement. He said, I don't know if I'm going to retire. If you guys are asking me about if I'm going to retire, I can answer that 100%. I have the Olympics coming up, and I just can't tell you. What are your thoughts? Nadal just keeps going back and forth about retirement. In Spain and Madrid, he allowed Madrid to give him his farewell. He didn't allow it in Italy. What are your thoughts on this?
I've kind of spoken to this last episode, but I mean, to be frank, this is a guy who doesn't want to leave the sport. This is a guy who feels like if he's not playing at a certain level, he should leave the sport. And I think he's surprising himself in some of these matches and going, okay, am I 100% no? Do I see glimpses of a standard that I'm satisfied with? For sure he does. He drew a favorite for the French Open in the first round and had a decent match. Decent. If I were in his shoes, I wouldn't be so sure if it was time to just let it go either. You know? So I think that he's waiting for a sign that tells him, one, I absolutely can play my best level of tennis again, or two, I have no chance in hell. And once he figures that out, I know he'll make the official decision. But there's no way he's leaving a stone unturned. He's not going to leave anything. He's not leaving any crumbs on the table. He's going to get everything he can out of the sport. And he's not going to worry about your ceremonies or your concerns. He's going to go out and do what he does best.
On his term?
Yeah.
Where do you think would be his term? What slam? If it's not the French Open, where?
I don't think it's necessarily about an event. I think it's about a result.
Okay.
I do think, for example, let's say he shows up to the Olympics and he loses in his first match to a nobody. I think that takes a blow to his pride and ego. You know, okay. I really do. I think his losses have been the players we respect.
Yes.
Demonor, top 10 level. Zverev, top 10 level.
In the semifinals.
You know, and then came back and beat Demonor.
Yes.
That might mess with my head too. I just beat a top 10 level guy right now. Is it time to go? You know? Also, think of it this way. Wow. From the baseline, I'm going blow for blow with the top players on the planet. I just need to get my serve where it needs to be.
Right.
Maybe I just focus on that puzzle and I don't worry about retirement. You know, these are the things that he could be thinking about. So, you know, we'll see. I get where Nadal's coming from. I don't think that he's, you know, in a state of desperation or delusional. I think that his head's in the right place.
Yes. So now another big story of week one was Terrence Attman, who hit a ball out of anger into the crowd, hit a crowd member, and did not get disqualified. Everybody brought up what Djokovic did. Mm-hmm. So he did pay a heavy fine. He did apologize for hitting the fan, but no disqualification. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Djokovic is probably punching a wall right now, but, you know, they pulled Djokovic out of an entire Grand Slam he was the favorite for. They let this guy float around because it probably doesn't matter, you know? So... yeah, it's unusual, but obviously we know that a lot of times repercussions and consequences in the moment are determined by which umpire is there and who's making the immediate decision. And so I think there are inconsistencies, you know, because there's a different person making the call each time. So I think that's all it is.
Okay, that's fair. And now we have a little bit of history made. Gael Monfils broke the record for most wins, 122, by a Frenchman in the Grand Slam. History.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on Gael?
Gael Monfils, that's impressive. I think that there will be a Frenchman who breaks that eventually. Off the top of your head, can you think of who's the greatest French player ever?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. I couldn't think off the top of my head, really.
Yeah, I'm just curious because whose record did he break? I might have to look that up. But yeah, it's great for him. It speaks to his longevity. You know, that's what it really is. Him being a top 50 player for 15 years, you know, however long he's been on the tour. Probably closer to 20 years now. He's creeping up there. So yeah, good for him. Impressive. I'm a huge Gael Monfils fan, and he is still a threat.
Yes, exactly. So now on to week two. So we have Grigor Dimitrov finally reaching the quarterfinal of all four majors. And he has he has all 4 Grand Slam quarterfinals, so he's tied with 8 other players for that are currently playing. But the big thing is that he finally reached Roland Garros quarterfinal. What are your thoughts on Grigor? He's had a heck of a couple of seasons for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been on fire since the third quarter last year. He's creeping up on a full year of great tennis. After someone does it for a year straight, what do we really just call this a second coming and him back playing the best tennis of his life again? Because that's what it appears to be. He's playing at a high level. He's clearly top 8 level tennis on a regular basis. We're seeing him do this on all surfaces.
Yes.
I really think people should beware of him at Wimbledon. I think people need to be wary. I think his game suits grass. I think the grass is maybe his best surface when no one's paying attention. And I feel like the French, I mean, the records may speak for themselves, but I feel like it's his weakest surface. Not the French, the clay. So I'm excited for him. These results say a lot. They were saying a lot last year, and we were all just wondering how long can it go for. And I think he surpassed everyone, including his own expectations. So big shout out to Dimitrov.
Yes, for sure. He's reaching that level of consistency where he's just being solid in all surfaces.
Yeah. So
that's good. But the funny part of this story is Hurkacz, who Grigor has a tremendous record against. He wanted to swap the umpire. He felt that she was just not doing her job, making bad line calls. So he told Grigor, hey bud, can we switch the chair umpire? And then Dimitrov was like, what are you talking about? And then he said, well, if you want to switch, I guess. So that was his response. What are your thoughts on that request by Hurkacz to switch the umpire?
I've never seen that before, so that's kind of funny. And Dimitrov going, look, man, that's not the reason the results are the results. Do what you want to do. That's even funnier to me because he's basically going, I'll entertain whatever you want. Just let's play tennis.
Yes.
Which reminds me, I did find out who the previous record holder of the most French wins is.
Oh, I'd love to know who it is.
Jo-Wilfried Tsonga.
Okay.
Yeah, with 121 wins. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow, I didn't see that coming at all.
I didn't either. And that makes me ask you this question. Who is the greater player to you? Jo-Wilfried Tsonga or Gael Monfils?
Oh, wow. Tsonga was, in the early 2000s, he was super consistent. Semifinals, finals. Honestly, I'd probably have to go with Tsonga.
I agree. I think that he just had a more serious run on the tour than Gael Monfils did. Starting in 2008 and on is when I really saw him making the most noise.
Right. So now we're going to go to the big story. I want to save the funny story for last, which is going to be Novak Djokovic. Obviously, he announced that he will not play at Roland Garros, which means that there will be a first-time winner on this event. He had surgery, which means that Wimbledon is up in the air. So, what are your thoughts on this big event?
It's interesting because, look, once again, we saw that it was supposed to be the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds playing each other in the semifinals, and our 1 seed goes out on injury, and guess who capitalizes and takes his spot with a walkover? Casper Ruud.
We're going to talk about him.
Look, it plagues me that this happens so often.
Well, Casper Ruud did beat Djokovic in Monte Carlo.
Look, I'm not here to say he's a good or bad player. I'm here to say
that he took advantage.
How often does it happen?
At the French Open.
At the French Open and then the one U.S. Open.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing to me. It's like 1 slam per year. He goes, I'm getting through this draw. Look, I don't want to downplay the fact that he made it to the quarters, right? He did play his way there, and he is a great clay court player. He always has been. But it's just mind-blowing how often he doesn't play a top, maybe 8 player en route to a Grand Slam final sometimes. So, yeah, very interesting for me. But outside of that, I do like all 4 of our men's players in the semifinal as potential French Open winners. I like Casper Ruud as possibly having one. I like Zverev. I like Sinner. And I like Alcaraz. I think all 4 of them are phenomenal clay court players. There's no one in this where I'm going, oh, here we go. So this is awesome. This is a great French Open result. And I think me and you can agree that if we had to make a list of 4 people who were destined to get their first French, this might have been the first 4 people.
I agree. I said Zverev. That was my dark horse in the beginning. So I could definitely say that for sure.
Yeah.
But back to Djokovic, meniscus tear. So again, he's gonna miss Wimbledon and Olympics. Olympics. Sorry. Wimbledon is still up in the air. He's trying. Olympics. He doesn't have a gold medal. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Djokovic. Novak. Nole. This is the first real plaguing, concerning injury we've ever seen for Novak Djokovic. And he was noticeably upset during the match when he got injured. He was unhappy with the clay. He was falling all over the place. You know, it was a very physical scenario for him. And this is concerning because I don't mean to nitpick, but Djokovic is the one guy who just, out of the big 3, to me, he seems to be I don't even want to say least resilient. He seems to be the most susceptible to when he does have an issue. When he does get hurt, when he does have a health issue, it really hits him. Like, he falls off the map a bit. We noticed with Federer, he was pretty much playing nonstop his whole career until he literally couldn't play, except for maybe the back injury. Nadal, we noticed, kind of just plays through the injuries. Djokovic isn't either of those. I hate to say it, but there is potential here with a knee injury from a guy who's a bit of a grinder.
Yes. For
this to be the start of a very steep and fast decline. His play style requires him to have healthy knees. I get concerned. I'm concerned about this one. I think this could be much bigger than it appears.
It appears that this is a Federer type incident where it was off the tennis courts and obviously he was playing with his kids and boom, there's the knee. So this is concerning. I am a little concerned for him. And I don't know if he's going to be able to come back at 100%. But what do you think? Do you think he'll be able to come back at 100%?
Look, speaking as a tennis player who has a meniscal tear, I don't have $1 million medical team behind me to support me. And let me leave tennis for a second here. The last elite athlete I saw get a meniscal tear is professional skateboarder Nyjah Huston. Nyjah Huston at the time was the #1 most successful, most winningest skateboarder on planet Earth. Got a meniscal tear while skateboarding, fell off the mat for a year, came back to skateboarding, and it took him almost a year to win his first place trophy again. And this is a guy who is winning 4 to 5 a year. So if it's going to be anything similar to that, I do think that we see Djokovic come back and win titles. I don't think we see the dominance from Djokovic like he had pre-meniscus tear.
Okay.
So that would be my immediate take based off experience and observation. He will be back. He will play well. He will not be the #1 player on the planet.
Yes, he was struggling coming into the event. Who knows if he would have made a deep run. Zverev probably would have given him a big challenge. But yes, this is sad to see. The old guard, they're coming down slowly. So again, new French Open champion in a while. So it's pretty big news. So now we'll go to Casper Ruud. So the king of the 250s is in the semifinals.
Yep.
Doing this thing. He's had a great clay court season. He made it to the final of Monte Carlo. Won Geneva, 3-time champion, by the way. What are your thoughts on Casper Ruud?
Look, congratulations to Casper Ruud. There's no way on earth he walks away with this French Open. But I do think there's one in his future. I do. It just isn't this year. That's my take. I think that the true final is Sinner versus Alcaraz. To me, out of the 4 players, I think Alcaraz is the one I'm the most impressed by on the clay.
Yes.
I think that Zverev is completely capable of winning this French Open. He's capable. I think that Zverev Alcaraz is the final that I want to see, and I think it's the final that goes 5 sets. I also think it's the final where we see Alcaraz make the adjustments on the serve return and get away with his kick serve against Zverev. I think he edges that final out and wins this, but Zverev's an intelligent player, and I know for a fact Zverev is an opportunist and a realist, and he knows this 4 here is doable. He can do this. And when he senses that it can be done, he plays different. He's from that generation of the Tsitsipas and all those guys that when they don't think it can be done, they don't play well. But when they do think it can be done, they're elite athletes. So this will be interesting to see. I don't think Zverev is even intimidated by Casper Ruud, and that will help him win that match. And I think that Sinner and Alcaraz are going to have potentially the match of the year. And I think Alcaraz is just a little better on clay.
That's what I'm thinking too.
You know, he's just a little more adept to this surface. Sinner is showing us his best clay tennis he's ever played. But you know what's funny? His best clay tennis he's ever played is just slightly modified hard court tennis.
Yes.
You know, like he's just playing good hard court tennis on a clay court. And he's doing it amazingly. It's almost mind-blowing how well he's doing it. But I don't think that cuts it against Alcaraz, who can do that also.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes.
And since we talked about Sinner, he will be the new world number 1 on Monday. Djokovic needed to make the final, and Sinner the semifinals. And now he didn't. So he will be the new world number 1 come Monday, regardless of what happens. Again, change of the guard?
Yes, I think so. And not because they beat Djokovic and took the crown. I think that father time, age, inevitability of the body taking blows. You know, Djokovic has been a little bit more lethargic, a little less consistent this year for the first time ever. So I think that it is a changing of the guard in that these younger guys are getting better and Djokovic is staying the same. I'm not saying he's getting worse, but we're not seeing a new Djokovic come out there and play tennis. We're not seeing brand new clay tennis from Djokovic. We're seeing last year's clay tennis from Djokovic. So, yeah, I absolutely think this is a changing of the guard. Quote me on that. I'm betting on it. And it's interesting because I actually think Sinner is the best player on planet Earth right now. So this ranking switch is valid.
Okay.
I think he's the number 1 player on earth.
Yes, Djokovic had 2 straight 5-setters in a row. You can see the struggle. And again, with this meniscus tear, hopefully he comes back extremely well. But yeah, I'm thinking it's a changing of the guard as well. Alcaraz as well. I believe he'll be world number 1 very, very soon. But yes, I believe it's a changing of the guard for sure.
Yeah.
And now the last topic is Alcaraz. So very people didn't like a little response he gave when he played Korda. They asked him in the post match if he was worried at all about facing Korda and if he thought that he brought any weapons or challenges. He was all, not really. And then people were trying to defend him online. They're trying to say, well, his English is poor. You know, some people are all, he's just cocky and arrogant. Not even Djokovic would do that. What side are you on? Doesn't understand English or arrogant?
I'm on the side of keeping it real and honest. That's the side I'm on. Look, do you remember what his the scoreline was?
In that match, I do not.
I think he
won in straights.
I think he won in straights. I'm gonna see if I can look it up, but yeah, he beat him in straight sets. Is it arrogant or is it honest, right? Korda's a good player, but let's talk Korda for a second here. Korda's an American, strike one.
Oh, jeez.
we're at the French Open, right? We're at the French Open on clay, and he's going against a Spaniard. I'm not even using names yet, and we're at strike one. Strike two. Korda doesn't have a decorated history on this surface. Alcaraz was the favorite last year at the French Open. Strike two there. Strike three. Alcaraz is, in his head, the number one player on planet Earth. He probably doesn't even know what ranking Korda is, because he doesn't care. To be frank with you, I think he walked out there and didn't even have a strategy. And he knew Korda's play style is very beautiful, clean ball striking, moderate quality movement, and he plays his best tennis on a hard court. I know Alcaraz knows those three things.
Right.
And I'm sure he went, I have a team who are going to find out the details that I don't know, and I'm going to walk out there and I'm going to execute. I wouldn't have been worried either. And that's a champion's mindset. And I don't know if you're going to get to this in a moment, but he did a very similar thing with Tsitsipas in a press conference.
We're going to get to that in a moment. We're going to get to Tsitsipas crying in a moment. But before that, we're going to talk about John McEnroe. He said, you know what? El Mosquito, Juan Carlos Ferrero, is very similar to Stefano Tsitsipas's dad. He just yaps. All he does is yap. He doesn't allow him to figure out stuff. Alcaraz defended him and said, everything he tells me, I try to apply. It's useful information. What are your thoughts on John McEnroe coming at El Mosquito?
I like that also. And there's different types of players on the tour, right? We have very cerebral, analytical, tactical players. And then we have high-performing athletes who are very coachable and take instruction well. Do you have a preference? Do you think one is superior to the other? That's my question for you.
Do I think...
high-performing athletes that take instruction well, or specialized tacticians that are maybe good at strategy? Do you take more pride in one or the other?
I mean, there's... When it comes to Alcaraz, I don't know if this answers your question, but when it comes to Alcaraz, I truly believe that El Mosquito is giving specific instruction, and he's trying to apply it. Obviously, I don't speak Greek, but to me, Stefanos a lot of the time tries to shut him up. As a matter of fact, in his previous match, he said, be quiet, shut up in English. And I think he did it on purpose so everybody could hear. So to me, I believe that the information that Juan Carlos Ferrero is saying to Alcaraz is actually very useful.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't know if that answered your question.
It doesn't, but it's a good statement you're making. And let me follow that up, and I think you'll answer it after this.
Okay.
So obviously those are two players that are elite athletes, right?
Yes.
That both have very engaged coaches. Let's cross compare that with a Roger Federer,
okay,
a John McEnroe, a Nick Kyrgios, a Tsonga. Premium athletes that focus more on doing this on the court.
Figuring it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is one superior to the other?
Okay, got you. I actually think that being able to figure it out on the court, figuring out patterns, is actually a little more superior. Your Nadal playing Djokovic at the French Open, figuring out he's struggling with this short ball, let me keep hitting short. Federer saying, you know what, if I want to open up the court to Djokovic's backhand, I need to go to his forehand and then opening him up to his backhand. So I do believe that, yes, that once you have a game plan from the get-go, seeing if it works, and then if it doesn't, then changing it on your own, I think is better. Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, for me, the big question is, when it comes to Alcaraz and Tsitsipas, if they're both elite athletes, is Alcaraz winning matches because he just has a superior corner?
That's probably it, yes.
I think that they're both equally coachable. I'd even go as far as saying they're both elite athletes that on the right day with the right strategy could beat the other. Obviously, those two is probably a bad example, but I think Alcaraz just has a better coach.
Yes.
And you know what's funny is I think Tsitsipas' career trajectory has been manipulated by the fact that he can't find a coach that's actually elite.
That's true.
He tried other coaches.
He tried Philippoussis,
and then he ran back to his dad again.
Quickly.
Yeah. I think that you're right. That makes him technically an inferior professional tennis player because he's crutched. His trajectory is directly affected by who is feeding him information and helping him strategize on the court. And, you know, if Juan Carlos Ferrero switched teams and went to Tsitsipas, maybe he does get a Grand Slam that year.
That's possible. Yes, and going back to McEnroe, I don't see El Mosquito texting Tsitsipas or Alcaraz while he's in the bathroom. So I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But now going on to the match, he said, Alcaraz, prior to the match, he said, I have a good tactical game to apply against Tsitsipas. I know how to use it, and I'm going to win, pretty much. And he did. What are your thoughts on that statement?
That's what I was hoping you were going to ask me a moment ago because it's hilarious.
Did that come off cocky?
Oh, for sure. But when you deliver, it just comes off as honest and transparent. And I really appreciate that. You know, He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't making stuff up. He was enthusiastic about knowing he's going to take out a player. And it's very interesting because we don't ever hear players say that, even when it's true. You've never heard Nadal go, we have a strategy. We're going to come out and deliver tomorrow. Never have heard that from a champion before, in my experience. What makes it kind of humorous to me is to be that confident you're going to take someone out and it's not even your strategy. You know, to come out and go, I'm beating you because he told me how. You know, like that's not. I don't think I'd be as proud of that as if I were Roger Federer sitting down going, I've watched the video. I know his sequences and patterns, his strengths and weaknesses. I'm pretty confident I'll come out the victor tomorrow. I would respect that a lot more. But nonetheless, I appreciate the honesty, and you look brilliant until you lose.
Right.
You know, so we'll see what happens. But last year we did see Alcaraz is a shadow of his best self when his coach is not present at a tough match.
You're correct.
So I think for Alcaraz, for me to consider him the real world number one on the planet, I'd like to see a tough match when he doesn't have his coach and just see what he does. Because he tends to rely on brute force and athleticism when his coach isn't present. And so, as much as I'm a big fan of him, and I do think he's the French Open favorite, I want my number one player on the planet to be able to adjust on the fly.
When he played Sinner, he used a very smart tactic against Sinner at Indian Wells. So he does have the tactic to beat him. We'll see if he applies it. We'll talk about this in the next podcast if he does apply it. But one more thing on McEnroe, this is new tennis now. Coaching is allowed. It is what it is. I get it that in the past you used to figure it out for yourself. That would make you a superior athlete. But now that's just what it is. And now the super funny part of this, just as a reminder, last year Tsitsipas couldn't sleep. So he took melatonin, I believe it was, and he couldn't react fast enough. This time, maybe it's valid. He said, you know what? And he complained to the umpire. You know what? Alcaraz grunts through the shot. And sometimes I feel that he's grunting and it's more of an out call. And he's grunting through the shot right before I hit mine. And it's annoying. When online, people were saying the same thing. Sometimes I hear him grunt and I think it's the umpire saying out. It's annoying. Does Tsitsipas have a point?
I don't know. I don't know there. I mean, is it annoying? Is he right about that? For sure. It sounds very annoying. But my real thoughts are, when you're out there, you're supposed to pride yourself on being in the zone and playing every ball. And unfortunately, Nadal has set a golden standard that we have to hold everyone else to now, which is play every ball like it's match point. Swing until someone stops you from punching, right? I think that these things are mind games, and it's a mental battle out there. And I'm not saying Alcaraz is doing it on purpose, but what I am saying is he's not going to stop doing it because it's not helping you win. I think that Alcaraz is going, oh, that annoys you, and I just do it naturally. This is great, so I don't imagine umpires stopping Alcaraz, and I don't think that people like CC Parr are going to do very well on the tour, allowing these things to affect how they feel mentally on the court. But I agree it's annoying.
All right, let me ask you this question. Obviously, with Azarenka, Sharapova, that was the big thing. Sabalenka grunts hard. And even some analysts are saying sometimes the grunt is harder than the actual shot. Do you think that grunting should be disbanded or banned?
I don't think grunting should be banned, and I do think that grunting actually can enhance player performance. I genuinely believe that, but I 100% know for a fact these players are grunting beyond the concern for performance from themselves as an athlete. It's excessive. I do think that there should be some barometer or way, and we may need to get creative here, but maybe there needs to be a formal warning saying, hey, your decibel amount needs to be at this level by the time they're about to contact the ball. And I guarantee you players will play just as good and grunt way less time on the court. So yeah, I think that we've given players an inch and they took a mile.
Yes.
Especially on the women's tour. There's 5 or 6 of them that are grunting almost before they strike, through the strike, into the opponent's strike.
Right.
Which is almost mind-blowing. I bet you that has to be affecting their fatigue.
Oh, exactly, yes.
So, yeah, I'm a little blown away that no one has attempted to contain it. But it's a gray area. It's kind of tough to contain. So I understand why it's difficult.
I truly believe that if the ATP and WTA do something about it, it's going to stop real quick. The whole 30-second rule, that stopped Nadal from overdoing it. It stopped Djokovic from overdoing it. Now he bounces the ball 110 times when the crowd is loud. But other than that, he won't do it. So if they were to implement a rule, that's going to stop.
Yep.
So again, last question. Did Stefanos lose this match because of the grunting? Should he have had blocked it out somehow?
He needs to block everything out. And he didn't lose his match because of that. He lost his match because he got outplayed. And I listened to his press conference. He said, I got outplayed. He was pretty transparent. He said, look, he was superior. I didn't have answers for what he was doing on the court. He would get to my best shots and hit better shots. He hits balls that no one else on the tour hits. He has a level of topspin and pace and power and makes me hit up one more ball than most players on the tour do when he hits those balls.
Right.
And he said, I don't really have an answer for it yet. I will work on it and I will find a way to win. But as of right now, I don't have an answer for it. So I really respect his transparency there. He didn't make excuses. He said he got outplayed.
Yes, he said that he doesn't face that ball. So it's hard to play against it. And honestly, if he's going to stand that close trying to rip one-handed backhands, he's going to have to do a Federer strategy and not take full-blown swings and miss the returns. So he's becoming a little Shapovalov on those backhand returns. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just something very small. But I did watch Good Trouble, which is Nick Kyrgios' show through the production company of Naomi Osaka. And he sat down with Patrick Martoglou. And they had a debate that's very relevant to this episode.
Okay.
They had a debate where they were on opposing sides about this. Martoglou says involving coaches in match play and allowing them to speak to the players is great for the sport. And Nick Kyrgios, as we know, passionately disagrees. And he thinks that what makes the sport special and unlike any other sport you watch on television is that the player's alone out there, and when things aren't working, they have to strategize and figure it out. Martoglou said, you love to watch the NBA. They go to their coach on every timeout.
Yes.
They have sports where the coaches are mic'd up in the UFC. Coaches are a part of the entertainment aspect, and you are in a sport that's entertainment. All valid points. Nick Kyrgios also making a valid point of what makes this special is gladiators can't run to get advice in the corner, and we're out there in the arena. Where do you side here? I think I already know the answer, but I felt like Martoglu made some very valuable points in saying that this is entertainment.
Yes, the ATP has tried to, and the WTA have tried to get more viewers into tennis. So that's why they're doing the coaching. They're trying to make it more visually pleasing. Mm-hmm. But if they're going to keep it the way it is, as far as just gladiator mentality, yes, it's going to be figure it out for yourself. But then the viewers may not come and watch.
Yeah.
That's the problem there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I personally like no coaching. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to grow the sport, expand the sport, then it's going to have to be the other way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they need to mic up the coaches?
Oh, yes, they've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they tried doing it in the next gen finals. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they should maybe try it in a tournament other than that and see if it works.
Yeah. I think if you're going to take one step in that direction, you should just fully commit. That's my opinion.
Right.
And if we're going to involve coaches, let's have coaches get displayed, maybe sit in a specialized area, and let's mic them up and get a camera on them.
I agree.
That would be my thoughts there. That's all I have.
All right. In that case, I hope you guys were entertained.